Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me. It is a pleasure for me to do this workshop this evening on Intimate Conversations with the Divine, which is my new book. And since I have a copy, I thought, I'm sure you want to see it. There it is. Look at that. I am so excited about this. So I really want to thank you for being here with me. And if we were in a room together, I would be hugging you to no end. So the subject is obviously on this book and on the power of prayer. And I want to enter calmly into this subject because I have so much to say about it that I could fill our time together for 6 hours nonstop. And in fact, when we're talking about doing this presentation, I thought, how am I going to jam everything into this? But I'm going to do my best to control myself in my enthusiasm for this topic and for communicating and for you being with me. I'm hugging all of you virtually. I hope you can feel the grace pouring through. And I want you, if we could just breathe together for a moment. I deeply believe all life breathes together. But just this sounds so funny, but I do mean this. I mean, just breathe grace together for a moment. Get attention here, as if we were all together, because we are all together. And I really, when I teach something sacred, it is so holy and sacred to me. And I just want us all to be together. And in my heart, I am blessing each one of you, pouring grace abundantly into you. And so as I enter into this topic tonight, and for however long we will speak about it, however many more evenings, I want to begin by saying and stating the obvious, that we are living at a time of profound transformation. That's not your imagination. This world is erupting with change. It is erupting. And there are so many different ways that you can look at that. But what I want to do is provide you with a tool through which, no matter what you will encounter in the days or weeks or months ahead or years, that you have a place to go to within yourself in which you can always feel you have a piece of power, that there is something that you can rely upon, and that something is an understanding of the power of prayer and the reality of grace and how it comes to you and into you and through the atmosphere of your life the moment you request it. And so as I get into this, I thought, I will tell you that if someone had ever told me that my life would end up toward the latter years of my life, and no doubt for the rest of my life, that I would be devoted, and I do mean devoted, to teaching people about the power of their souls and about the presence of the non-physical, the holy world in your life, honestly, I would have said they were nuts. And here I am. And now I can't imagine doing anything else. And how does that happen? And if anybody had even hinted that I would release my prayers to the public, the way I pray, which required that I had to explain my spiritual life a bit, which I will share, and how my own inner world is my own private, mystical life, which I keep so private. I had to open that door a little bit, which is not the most comfortable thing for me in the world. I'm open. My role is to open your doors, not to open mine. So I thought that I would enter the subject of prayer by sharing a door that opened for me. Because you don't become devoted to something because one day you're reading a book and you think, well, that's interesting. I think I'll follow that. Something happens to you. And that's what happened to me. Something. I was very involved in teaching sacred contracts. I was very involved in my career in that area was just flourishing. And then something happened. And that's what I want to share with you, because you can't teach about the power of prayer unless you've experienced it. I mean, otherwise you've had to have experienced something that gives you the fire in you. Otherwise, what are you doing, right? Okay. So what happened was, and so now this is honestly the way heaven works. And I'm going to do a disclaimer here for all of you. So this is a general disclaimer. And that is that God does not have a religion. So whether you're Catholic or Buddhist or Jewish or Druid or atheist or agnostic, I don't care what you are. It doesn't make any difference, because neither is God. There is no such thing as a God that has a religion. We have religions, and you want a religion, have a religion. I'm deeply enmeshed in Catholic mysticism, but I go to an Episcopal church, and then I do Buddhist, and my mind's very Buddhist, and I'm like put together like potluck at a laundromat now. But there is no off-planet God that looks like us. And so that's just like an old world myth. There is no male god. There is no male goddess. I mean, female goddess. That these are all. If you want stories like that, that's fine. You can have them, but in the end, these are all representations of what we need, not the way the universe is. And the journey toward truth, this mystical long walk, is this walk of shedding one, what Buddha would call illusion after another. One shedding, which is why Buddha eventually came and said, you know what? There is nothing. Nothing is all there is. And that's that divine, wonderful, paradoxical, delicious truth that what we're shedding is the need to have God look for like us, and then we eventually get rid of that. And then, all right, then what's left? Well, then we get into the great cosmic everything. And the great cosmic everything means that if everything is the divine, that's a whole nother theology. That's a great, huge, galactic, cosmic, universal theology. And dare I even suggest that we are on the cusp of entering that huge type of theology and closing the books on the lesser theologies that have formed the human experience to this time, that have included the experience of religions. But within the religions are beautiful mystical truths. Within Judaism, within Christianity, within Buddhism, within Islam, they're beautiful mystical truths. And so we go within Pythagoras, within Plato. We take these beautiful mystical truths that would be, if I taught just the mystical truths, with which I'm going to refer to actually when I talk to you about how prayer works. And I asked, and I would quiz you, who taught this? Who taught that what goes around comes around? That you would recognize as karma, but who's the first one who taught that? And who doesn't teach that? you discover that everybody taught a version of that law, because God is law. Law is the manifestation of the divine. Law. The nature of God is law. The nature of God is law. And I'm going to dive into that when I start explaining to you, how does prayer work? Prayer follows laws. So now I'm going to back up and tell you that, it's so exciting. It's so exciting what's happening. We're between eras of mythologies where the way we thought the divine was is withdrawing and a whole new beginning is starting. But in between, we're so vulnerable. And from a mystical point of view, that explains the rocking and rolling that we're experiencing all around the world and will continue to experience, because this won't remedy itself overnight. But I did that Phoenix series on this, and perhaps many of you took it. But if you didn't, you might want to look at that, because I went through stage by stage why this is happening. Now, I'm going to talk to you about how I got into prayer and why. So, this is how heaven works, not just with me, but with you. So it was a Friday afternoon, and it was one of those Fridays that's perfect. And Friday is my favorite day of the week because I'm a workaholic, as I'm sure many of you are. And so for me to even take an hour off, an hour is something I have to actually earn. I'm working on not being a workaholic, but I'm not doing very good at it. But Friday afternoon, if I'm not traveling someplace to teach, is like this treat for me because I'm not traveling. So for me, I knock off at around noon, and it's like, wow, this is like such a treat. And this was a perfect October Friday afternoon. It was just perfect. It was like 80 degrees, and it was dry. The sky was gorgeous. I was feeling so perfectly wondrous in my skin, and my body was healthy, and I'm in my little townhouse, and I'm looking out and thinking, what a perfect day, what a perfect life, what a perfect, everything's so perfect. And I was feeling perfect, and in my going overboard on perfection, I suddenly hear a voice, just like that. I just hear a voice, and it downloads into me. It wasn't audio. Now, this is the thing about a mystical experience. It's you experience the voice. It comes into you like a full-fledged grip. So did you hear it? Did you see anything? No. But it possessed you. Just like that. And what I heard, felt in this moment was, you don't have a prayer life. Just like that. And it was so complete. It was as if I'd been shot by an arrow, and it went right into my gut. I heard it in my gut. And I stood there in my kitchen, and I honestly started to talk, to defend myself. And I found myself saying, what are you talking about? And then I realized I was speaking to myself. That's number one. Number two, I immediately knew I had had a visitation. Immediately. I recognized exactly what happened to me, that I'd had a visitation, and that I'd had a command, get to prayer. In that was a command. It wasn't just a whimsical, an angel flyby. It was a complete reordering of my life. I knew instantly everything in my life was going to change. I knew that the life I had lived up until that moment was gone. It would somehow fade. I knew everything in my life was about to change. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. I didn't know in what way. All of that was transferred into me. All of it as I stood in the kitchen, because I heard the words, You don't have a prayer life. And so, in that complete epiphany-sized cosmic wow, I then found myself saying, well, hold it. And there I am saying, but I teach and I have all these books in my head. I have an archive. Look at my library. Those are in my head. And I teach all these people and I read all these spiritual books and I did it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm babbling like a brook to empty space, but I knew it wasn't empty space. I mean, I knew it. But I knew it didn't matter. The message had been delivered. I got it, and everything was different. I didn't know what was going to happen or when. And then to top that off, I stood there and I sort of giggled and I thought, can you believe it? I mean, pick on someone else. And then I thought, I can't believe you would come and tell me that. And then I thought, what'd you do that for? Uh-oh. And then I thought, this was incredible. I mean, you came and you told me, and that's incredible. And then I thought, why does prayer matter so much? Why? And then I thought, uh-oh, am I going to need to pray? What are you going to do to me? I mean, all of these thoughts went, Okay, so I'm going to fast forward because I don't have time to fill you in on all the things that happen, but what is relevant, and I write about this in my book, so I don't need to, and you're going to get the book, so. But what is relevant is that I didn't know how my life would change, but I did know it would. And oddly enough, as profound as that mystical experience was, within a few days, I was back to being normal. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I sat around and just wondered and waited for the curtains to fly up. Life went on. And I was teaching sacred contracts and doing workshops. And then I noticed something, and that was that I no longer had any enthusiasm for teaching sacred contracts. None. Gone. It was all gone. And to say I love that subject was I loved it, and I loved teaching it, and oh my God, I'm good at it. But then it was gone. The enthusiasm. And here's the thing. I rely on this inner current that I have to teach. I rely on this inner light, this inner grace for me to do anything, but certainly for me to be with others in a classroom, and for me to trust what I'm doing, what I'm saying, and how to be with another person in a classroom, and how to command my subject, because so oftentimes when I'm teaching, all of a sudden I'll veer off somewhere because I feel inspired or something, to put it delicately. If I don't feel that, I feel vulnerable, and I feel like I just have to rely on my mind. I don't know how to communicate this in any other way, but if I just have to rely on what I know, then I don't feel safe. I feel insecure, and I don't ever feel insecure. I'm never insecure in a classroom. But because of this, but if it wasn't there, I don't know how to teach. I'm a nervous wreck. I would have an anxiety attack if I don't feel that presence with me. So now I'm teaching sacred contracts, and it's gone. And I thought, that's it. That was it. I had to give up teaching sacred contracts. It was as simple as that. The light went out. I didn't know where the light would go on, but the light went out. And so I stopped teaching sacred contracts. And that was the reason. Now, I don't have time to go through my biography, and you're not interested, and I'm not. But the long and the short of it is, everything veered off after that toward healing, toward mysticism, toward prayer, toward Teresa of Avila, toward the interior cast, toward that direction where we are tonight. And one of the points I want to make is that you have no idea how much I had no interest in healing, no interest in helping people heal or miracles or praying for that. Nothing, zero, nothing. But then again, I didn't want to be a medical intuitive either. But anyway, it just veered off. And how that happened was, as the light went out in this place, without even realizing it, and see, this is how heaven works. When you ask for a prayer to be answered, and I'm going to weave you into my story. When you are praying, so often I know people make this assumption, or they take this approach of looking for the response right away, or looking for how prayers are answered, and they're looking for a certain answer, and they want it right away, and it has to be, as if they're dealing with a business, or they're dealing with earthly things. And you have to bear in mind at all times, or as best as you can, that the nature of heaven is mystical. And what that means is that it's not rational, it's not human, and it doesn't operate on the day-to-day calendar that you do. It just doesn't. It operates on a 360-degree view of your life, as well as one that's quite timeless. It's seamless, it's timeless, it incorporates a cosmic view, and it incorporates the knowledge of your soul. It incorporates all kinds of things that you know nothing about, plus all the wiring of your connections to people you have known, to people you have yet to meet, to all the things you know nothing about, and further, to all of your archetypal patterns, and to events and choices that are going to kick into gear. So all of that, all of that is part of how prayers work their way, the answers to a prayer works its way into your life. This is what I think of as the organics of the divine. It comes through the organic structure of you. Prayer comes through, like in my case, my interests began to change. I didn't immediately think, oh, look at this, must be the answer to my prayer. I'm suddenly developing an interest in this. You don't think that way. It's organic. You don't realize until later that this was tied to that. You don't connect the dot that way. We're not that aware. But in fact, I developed an interest in something I never had an interest in, and that was healing. I wonder, I wrote a book on why people didn't heal. I figured that out. But now I started to become interested. And I wonder what would help people heal. That's a great journey in itself. But what that led to was my understanding that we had become so involved in the power of our mind, and the belief that, the source of illness was negativity, negative thinking, blah, 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 all this other stuff. When in fact, healing is the province of the soul. And I finally got that after this long journey of years and everything else. This track that I had begun in my late 40s as a result of hearing, you don't pray, got me to where I am now, which is that I totally get that healing is the province of the soul. And the soul is our creative powerhouse. Now, it was a long unfolding getting there, but let me just say it was a journey for me to get to the place now where I would share the power of prayer with you, that I could tell you with every cell in my body, prayer is power. It's everything it's cracked up to be.